Good evening. It is, shoot, I don't see the time on that one, 6:05 p.m. And I'd like to call the October 13th meeting of the Board of Health to order. For members of the public that are joining us and have questions or comments, you can raise your hand or type your question in the Q&A, which Q&A will be part of the meeting record. Our first agenda item is open forum. I will ask that all COVID and mask related comments and questions be held until we come to that agenda item. So if there is anyone with a non-COVID related item, please raise your hand.
Which it does look like a hand has been raised.
All right. And okay, it's down.
Okay.
Okay. So do we have any other open forum?
Not that I see.
Okay. Then we will move ahead to the next agenda item, which is the approval of minutes for the Board of Health meeting on September 13th, 2021. I didn't have any comments. Did anybody else? Oh, and I guess I should note that we don't have Zach present at the moment for the meeting.
Correct.
The only comment I had was on page 1, Doug Duchesne's name was not spelled correctly. The bottom paragraph.
I did not have any comment.
Wow, great job. I
Woohoo.
don't know who types them up for
Are you
us.
guys just being nice because I'm here?
Oh, it's you. Okay, no, they were great.
They were.
So just Doug Duchesne on page 1.
Just the bottom paragraph is, it's just spelled D-E-S-C-H-E-N. S-E-S was left off the end of it.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes from Monday, September 13th with that correction?
I'll make the motion.
Motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Michelle. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. I can't see people on my screen, so can we?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously, yes?
Mhm.
Okay, if not, say something. I only see one person at a time for some reason on my view. Maybe I can change that. Let me see. Usually I can't, but there we go. Okay, so then the next is the approval of minutes taken at the Joint School Committee and Westford Board of Health meeting on August 24th, 2021. Did anybody have any corrections or comments? I didn't either.
No.
Somebody want to make a motion to accept those minutes then?
I'll make that motion.
Michelle makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne. Seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right. So the next, are we ahead of ourselves?
No, actually, Colleen Wallace was not able to attend tonight.
Okay.
And she sent the letter that was in your packet
Okay.
for the request.
So the next item on the agenda is the request for variance on polystyrene products in the Westford school kitchens. And we had a letter from the schools about that, basically saying that.
Yeah, they're having a hard time they've reached out to several vendors, even beyond their school approved vendor list, as far as some of these polystyrene products. They understand the restrictions in town due to shortages with products throughout everyone due to COVID. They're unable to get these specific products, in which case they would need to bring in products with polystyrene. They didn't ask for a specific date or end date just because they don't know throughout the school year how this is going to go, if they'll be able to get these products. Right now, they're between 3 and 5 weeks to get some of these products back in storage.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I have no problem with this. I know from working in the school system, they're having a big problem with getting certain foods. I mean, there's so many problems right now. And I'm pretty sure in the school that it's still federally funded, right? Everybody gets food
Correct.
for free. So
Yes.
so there's a pretty high need right now. So I feel their pain. I know they don't want to go back. Nobody's trying to go backwards, but we have to, be cognizant of the fact that there is a shortage out there and it's harder to get supplies than it used to be. So I fully
I
support.
agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's completely reasonable and, to be evaluated as we go forward. I don't think we need to have an end date. We can review it periodically.
Okay, great.
So do we need to have a motion to
We
approve
do.
that variance?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to accept. Yep.
Sue makes the motion. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Joanne, you're kind of slow tonight.
I'm low. Slow here.
So
Slow.
Michelle seconds that. Okay, all in favor of allowing this variance, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so we are ahead. Do we need to wait and take old business or new business and old business?
We can if you want. It's really up to you how you want to go about.
Why don't we do that just because people may be planning to join at 6:30 and we want to give them that opportunity.
Sure,
So,
absolutely. So for old business, I just have 472 Groton Road mentioned. Just for a recap, they are one of our longstanding housing cases among several. Mr. Charles D. Donato, who was the owner of this multifamily, 3-family home, for the last 2 years there have been ongoing housing issues at the home. There is no one living there. The home did catch fire a little over a year ago, in which case it was condemned again. Mr. D. Donato has since, in the last 2 months, passed away. His son is now the caretaker of the property. We're working with town council to see if we can proceed as far as demolition of the property. We have received a stipulation from Mr. D. Donato's estate regarding his son to pay for the receivership, outstanding items, and to proceed as follows with demolition and any work necessary. So we just received this last week. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware that this case is still ongoing and we are working the problem, if you will, with each new hiccup that comes up. The goal is the house is completely secured. We do check in from time to time on the property and to make sure that there's no health or safety violations, if you will, from the exterior of the home. We're working closely with the building department with regards to this property and hoping to see a resolution very soon. So I just wanted to make you aware of that and see if you had any questions.
Thanks, Ray.
Yep.
Okay,
And I don't know if you want to go on to new business while we're waiting.
yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay. New business, I just wanted to make you aware that we have already started our flu clinics. An employee flu clinic has taken place just last week, as well as our first round of senior flu clinics in the community. 275 plus vaccine have been given out by both MRC and our public health nurse. So just wanted to make you aware of that. We do have our first drive-through flu clinic tomorrow night from 4 to 7 o'clock. And we encourage any resident that would like to come to register through the link it's on our Facebook page, it's on our town website page. And they can certainly call the health department if they have any problem registering, or we are accepting walk-ins, if you will, or drive-ins, if you will. So I just wanted to mention that we have one this Thursday and we have another one the following Thursday, same
And those are
time.
where?
Those are at the Westford Water Department. And so they'll be able to drive right in and get their vaccine.
But they need to pre-register on the website. They can find the link for that.
Absolutely. Yep. This year, the state has rolled out, it's required that we have everyone register. And so it's a new software called Color. And so all residents would need to register for the flu clinics this year. Unfortunately, there's no paper available for the clinic. So we have extra people on staff to make sure we can register everyone, take their insurance information, and try to get them through as quickly and as smoothly as possible.
Okay, so you can register people on site if they didn't have the
Correct.
ability to
Absolutely.
register.
Happy to take any walk-ins, if you will, and everyone's welcome. It's for all ages. So that is the clinic update with the schedule. We have brought in 3 contact tracing registered nurses to help us with contact tracing. They have just been onboarded as of last week. And so they are receiving their training now. We hope to have them onboarded completely by the end of this week, early next week to start helping us with any contact tracing.
Are they on Maven? Are they on Maven?
We do have one on Maven, and the other 2, Gail and I had discussed today that we were not going to put them all on Maven. It's easier to have them make the calls and do the tracing, and then Gail can input.
Perfect.
And so this is just to help Gail too, because Sue Hanley and Kathy Bordeaux, as you know, our school nurses have been wonderful helping us contact tracing. They too are overloaded with their workload and helping us. So with Gail, busy with these clinics right now, looking at booster COVID clinics for the future. We just want to make sure we have some extra help if needed, and that all of our calls and cases that are coming in are answered as quickly and swiftly as possible. So I just wanted to make mention of that so that you're aware that they have been on board. They are being paid out of the CARES Act money that is coming from both state and federal dollars. So that is not coming out directly from our resident taxpayers.
That's great.
Public Health Shared Excellent Grant. So just to recap, our health department has received a quite large, it's about $344,000 per year for 3 years. So just under $1 million grant for 3 years. That is a shared grant services through public health funding with Acton, it's Dracut, Westford, and the city of Lowell, and all 4 of us are sharing that grant. So we have brought on an accreditation coordinator. They've already started a grant manager who are both through the same company, BME Strategies, who we use for FEP and emergency preparedness. They have already started onboarding. We've had our first meeting with them this week, and they've actually just today sent all of our, there's quite a few monthly and quarterly reporting that has to be conducted, and any questions. It's an ongoing, quite a busy process. So they have already sent quarterly reports on our behalfs. They are also helping us bring on the community health educator as part of this grant, who will work 10 hours in our community and 10 in each other community, all 4, to be a full-time position. The plan is to have that position, the community health educator, be housed in Westford. We are the host agency. So I just want to bring that to your attention. All the salaries are paid out of this grant, and there's an additional about $40,000 over 3 years for admin fees and any equipment or any other fees that come up with the grant. So that is moving right along. So we're pretty excited about that.
Great.
Fta Grant update. So we've purchased just over $25,000 worth of equipment for our food inspectional program. And that includes new cell phones, brand new laptops, new equipment for the field for inspections, and to outfit all inspectors with new inspectional equipment for thermometers, anything and everything you can think of that you need on a food inspection, which is, there's quite a list. There's 16 different items that each inspector has to have on them in the field. Including cameras, flashlights, things of that nature. So those have all been paid through an FDA grant, which our department has received a little over $45,000 was received through 6 grants. So that equipment's been purchased and already onboarded to the inspectors. Again, no taxpayer, it does not come out of any taxpayer funding. So I just want to mention the update on those grants.
Who's been writing the grants? Who's been writing the?
I wrote the 6 grants for the FDA last year and this year. So
That's
it
awesome.
also, yeah, it also not only purchases equipment, but it helps pay for all of our policies and procedures to be written forms so that everybody is working consistently and standardized throughout inspections. So that is,
Good job.
that is something that we take pride in. We are the only community in Massachusetts that's working on the 2017 federal food code. And so we work really hard to make sure we're updated and we set the bar high for our community. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem.
Great.
Not a problem. Just a couple other items. Budget review and town report are due yesterday. And so in the process of working with our finance director and the staff at the health department, just to make sure all of our goals are set. All the town report, as you know, is due every year at the end of the fiscal year, just to make sure that not only all of our inspections are in there, funding, costs, goals, what we've accomplished in the last fiscal year. So those items are, I meet with Jody on the 19th, our town manager, to go over our budget. And so anyone is welcome to attend from the board if you'd like to, or if you have any questions, I will certainly show you the proposed budget before we go in front of the selectmen to see if you approve that or have any questions. And that is the budget review.
Maybe we can talk about the department employee vacancy updates.
So we have interviewed 7 different people. The last interview took place this morning for our administrative assistant. Our administrative assistant was with us for 22 years and she left in July. So it has been quite a long process to get someone onboarded, if you will, for this position. It's been quite difficult not having an administrative assistant, as you can imagine. We're in the process of renewing all of our annual permits for food establishments, installers, septic, hazardous materials. So it's quite busy. We have put it down to 2 candidates, and I'm waiting to hear from the Human Resources Department as to the next step for offering the contract. So my hope is that by the end of this week, early next week, we'll be able to reach out to this person and have them, see when they can start. We're projecting probably middle of November when this person will be on board and training already underway. So as you're aware, there were some updates to the job description, in which case it's a union position, and those had to be approved, which did take quite a bit of time, but we're moving forward. And the second vacancy obviously is the health director position.
I have
still
the
vacant.
job description approved, and hopefully
Okay.
tomorrow we'll have our ad ready to go out and get that posted.
Great.
I'm wondering if anybody else would like to be part of interviewing, because I have not been hearing much from Zach on this. So it might be better to have another person work with me on the interviewing process.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stephanie. I've
Oh,
just
you're
been
there.
so busy.
Okay. Hi, Zach. Or if you want to do it, that's fine.
No, if someone has time, that would be great too. Either way.
Either way is fine with me.
I
Nobody's jumping up.
say we keep Zach.
Okay, Zach, you're it.
Okay.
Okay, great. Glad Zach is now with us. Okay, so that hopefully will be moving forward in the next day or 2.
That would be great.
And Ray, you had also talked about, we have approval for now, somebody to help with, a consultant to help with the septic.
Yes, so we had to reach out to the town manager's office and human resource department to see what our availability and what the procurement process was bringing on for a consultant. And so that has just been approved. Actually, this morning we have sent over our first plans to the consultant, and we are so excited because the bags under our eyes are growing. So we're very, very excited about that so that we can move on to make sure we're up to date on all of our other inspections.
That's great. All right. We are still a little ahead of our schedule.
I don't know if you want to discuss the open meeting law.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Sure. Why don't we go ahead and discuss the open
We'll
meeting?
get them all out of the way here.
Yep.
Okay, so we did receive an open meeting law complaint with regards to a couple of things. The person was stated that they did not see that the meeting was posted or that public had access to the meeting. They also suggested that the meetings could not take place virtually due to the open meeting law. So I did reach out to town council with this complaint, and they did again provide a statement. I just wanted to let the public know that, just so that everyone knows, that all agendas for all meetings have to be posted 48 hours ahead of the meeting, which means if our meetings take place on a Monday night, we have to post that Thursday. The weekend does not count. So we do post those agendas, all those agendas on the town website. We go through the town clerk's office. They post the agenda for us both on the town website. And if you go on the main page, it says agendas, meetings, minutes, packets. You can see all that information for any committee or any board here in Westford. So those are uploaded there if anyone is ever looking for our agenda. It is also posted in the foyer or the hallway, if you will, of the town hall. And it's generally posted. We always generally put a copy. It's not required, but we generally put a copy at the health department on our main door. And anyone can certainly call us if they ever have any questions or they're looking at the agenda looking for it. The minutes are also posted there. I just want to remind the public. So we were not in violation of any of that. Virtual meetings are allowed per Mass General Law right now with COVID until April of 22. So we are not in violation of having a virtual meeting. And as always, you are welcome to ask any question at any point during our meetings. And all minutes are posted as well on the town website. So I just want to mention that. So the board, if it's okay, I'm happy to read the statement that town council sent over.
Please, thank you.
Sure. So on September 27, 2001, the board received a complaint that it violated the open meeting law during its September 22nd, 2001 meeting relative to not affording the public access to the public meeting, and then it was not visually posted on the town website. In addition, the complaint stated that all meetings are required to be in person and remote meetings are no longer allowed. We have reviewed this complaint with town council, and we do not believe that there was a violation of the open meeting law due to the authorization to conduct remote meetings was extended to April 1st of 2022 in Massachusetts. You are required to post your notice with the town clerk and include instructions for joining the meeting. Both of those requirements are met, and they were met in this circumstance. We always put the login information at the bottom of every agenda. With regard to the complaint, we are required to formally respond to the Attorney General's office regarding this complaint. Town council has offered to prepare a response on our behalf. Therefore, I would ask that the board vote to acknowledge receipt of this open meeting law complaint relative to September 22nd, 2001, and the board authorizes town council to respond on their behalf. And they just requested a roll call vote for this. We are required to read this statement and we are required to discuss it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Okay, so we just need to have a roll call to approve that
Yep.
Town.
that the board is not in violation of the open meeting law that took place on September 27th.
Okay.
And isn't it and to have
Allow
the
town
town
council.
council respond on our behalf?
Prepare a response on your behalf, correct?
So do we have to like make a motion for that?
Yep.
Or-
You would
okay.
make a motion and then first and second.
Okay. Somebody like to make that motion?
So I'll make the motion, stating that as a board, we acknowledge the complaint. And we also authorize town council to respond to the Attorney General on our behalf.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Let's see, I'll go in the order I see people. Joanne, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Aye, okay. Sue,
Yes. I don't know.
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yeah,
and I'll vote yes as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. So I think we can now, it's 6:30, so we'll go to our COVID updates, data review and discussion.
Stephanie, thank you for your efficient management of this meeting.
Very much.
All right. Let's see. Ray, did you have anything that you wanted to share?
So I just wanted to mention that I did put in the packet and forward over not only our case count for this week. I did want to make sure that everyone is aware in the public that our COVID cases change from day to day. So cases are constantly opening, closing, pending, and sent to what is called the CTC, or the Contact Tracing Center here in Massachusetts. So we post once a week. We try to post once a week. I know that the last 2 to 3 weeks, we have not been able to post those numbers, just to the fact that, it's an onboarding process to learn the state surveillance system. We've posted yesterday the latest COVID case count, which I believe was 30 active cases. We post the ages and put up education, not only for the mask mandate, but as well as education on the latest COVID information for both the state and our community. So we have received, as I've mentioned, hundreds of calls for both for masks and for against. For the mask mandate, we've had calls with suggestions for making adjustments to the mask mandate, which you have all been voted and seen. We're receiving quite a few calls now from folks that are visiting establishments that do not have masks on or no signage. I will say that every call that we receive from complaints that a business is not adhering to the mandate, we do make a phone call, visit if we can possibly get out with capacity. Unlike when Governor Baker issued a mask mandate for all businesses and for the public and indoor spaces, it's hard to let every business know about this, no matter how much you put it out in the paper or use social media platforms, short of sending a letter to every business in the community, which we do not have a listserv for. It's difficult. So we have been letting businesses know as we receive calls. I will say the last thing with regard to that is people need to understand too that folks do have medical issues, in which case they are not required to wear a mask. And so I know there's been a lot of frustration for residents with regard to wearing masks and also with that exemption. So we are completely aware. We're trying to answer every call and answer every email that comes in. And I personally do apologize if we have not been able to get back to a resident. We do try 110% to get back to everyone. So
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Ray. You guys have so much on your plates right now and being understaffed. We really appreciate all your efforts.
yeah, no problem. Last thing with COVID is we are on state calls every week with the latest information on boosters, and we're looking at all of that. We're looking and hoping soon there'll be approvals for vaccinations for under 12. So I, just wanted to make sure people know we are looking at all of that.
Thank you.
Yep.
I wanted to address a few points that have come up frequently in some of the emails and calls that I've received. First, I want to thank the residents in Westford for getting vaccinated, because we do have a good vaccination rate among our residents. And I would like to encourage anybody who isn't to get vaccinated, because that is the best way for us to protect ourselves and each other and return to a more normal state. I want to remind people, though, that we do still have a population of residents who are not able to be vaccinated, and those are children under 12. They do still get COVID. They can get sick and have short and long-term consequences. They also have to quarantine when exposed and isolate when sick, which means they can end up having their education significantly impacted. And it's important, if you just talk to parents of children that age, how much they've struggled through the past year with education. And I think that's really critical to be considered. Third, Middlesex County has dropped from high to substantial. So that's good that we're moving in a positive direction. The CDC says that at this level, everyone should wear a mask in public indoor settings. Westford, if I use the 2-week case count that we get and divide that by 2, which is perhaps a generous way of looking at it, we just eke under the high and come in just barely under high at substantial. So, that's one measure that is being looked at by the board, I think. And another, some people have asked about parameters. If we were to go to the old parameters, which were the green, yellow, red, just to let people know, we would have to have fewer than 8 cases per 100,000 to be in the green. And we are nowhere near that right now. People have brought up questions about DESE, or the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They currently still require masking for students and staff in buildings ages 5 and above, and strongly recommend them for students 2 to 5. There is the option to apply for a waiver if you have greater than 80% vaccination rate. We are staying in contact with the school committee and schools on this issue. And at the moment, that only place that would impact potentially is Westford Academy, but I think the consensus has been that we're not ready to do that at this time. We did just have an outbreak in that age group. These are concerns still. And some people have asked why we can't consider COVID like the flu in the state of Massachusetts, as in most states. We are required to report COVID. It has mandatory quarantine and isolation periods. Cases have to be tracked. We are not currently able to treat it like the flu. It is still a disease that has to be tracked and monitored and reported on. So there are a couple of things that I think, based on some of the comments, that I would like the board to discuss before we hear from public again. One was a discussion about whether these were sort of 3 things maybe that we might consider amending our mask mandate on. The first would be whether we'd like to create an option for businesses to allow masks to be removed for employees and customers if they are able to confirm that everybody has been vaccinated against COVID-19. So I don't know if there's some discussion from the board on that.
I have to say, I would be in favor of that. I think it's going to be tricky to how do you find out if everybody is, and then what size of a business do you say you can do it for? I think it's tricky because in theory, it sounds like a good idea for a smaller, type of business, but I'm not quite sure how it would be how we would put it into play. I don't, and I'd be curious on how other towns are doing it. You know, the ones that do have mask mandates, has any other town specified certain exemptions? That I'd be interested to know.
Ray,
I'm
are you-
personally not really comfortable with going in that direction at this point. I think that we're seeing breakthrough cases when people are vaccinated. I personally work in communities from Boston to Worcester, and all of these companies that I work at are requiring wearing a mask, vaccinated or not. So I just don't really feel like we're there yet.
Yeah, I agree with Michelle. You know, I get that it would be nice to offer an option, but the logistics of trying to do that is just too difficult. And you know, the other thing with being indoors, it's the indoor air quality, it's the air exchange that also plays a role. Then we would have no way of being able to establish whether there's good air movement in these establishments, because, you know, again, we're talking about layers of protection. So it isn't just about being vaccinated or just about wearing a mask or just about social distancing. It's doing all of it. And indoors, we have to be concerned with indoor air quality as well, which is why, you know, we have, you know, the air purifiers and the opening of the windows and all of that as well. So I don't think, I don't think we're there yet. And I think it would be really hard to control. And if people are doing it now, when it's pretty simple, like everybody put on a mask, this is gonna, and again, you know, I think part of some of the complaints, you know, from, especially from businesses is, you know, is the enforcement of that. And now they're gonna have, you know, how do you then say you have to prove and ask for proof of vaccination, et cetera. And if you do, if you say, you know, we need to see proof, and somebody says no, well, then what do you do? I mean, it's just introducing a whole nother layer.
I have to say that just on my travels in Europe this past week, they required proof of vaccination to enter a lot of places. And we had to whip out our vaccine cards. Everywhere we went, we were A, masked, and B, had to have a vaccine card with us. So, I mean, I think it's possible to do it, but it does put a burden on the businesses.
Right. And we're not doing that. And, you know, I was just speaking to somebody today. We had a drive-through, you know, flu clinic who had been in Portugal recently, and they said the same thing. That is just the common way of living in Europe right now. And they've accepted it and they do it. And, you know, but that's not here. They're fighting about having to prove that they're vaccinated, not vaccinated. And I don't know of a community. I know Sue asked that question. I don't know of a community that has done this option. I think a lot of communities have this similar setup that we do. I think that's where we got it, was from other communities, and other communities took it from us. So, you know, if we get to that point where having a vaccine card and you know, across the Commonwealth, then maybe, you know, showing it and sharing it. But
Zach, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Stephanie. I was recently in Boston at going to a theater, and we had to show vaccination cards and be masked. And it took, you know, they had to have a staff member just to check each thing. And so that's going to place a burden on businesses. So, I mean, I think that from what I'm hearing from the public, there are certain cases like gyms where people would like to be able to work out unmasked. But that would mean that they would have to be checking vaccination cards, and to, I think it was, I don't know whose point it was about air quality in the building. We'd have to make sure that that was also, they were getting enough air exchanges. So you know, while I'd like to be able to do that, it comes with implications that I don't know everyone is thinking through. Now it means you're directly working with the public to say, I need to see your card. You have to then feel that it's legitimate. And, you know, what if someone left it at home? What if someone just has it, you know, on their phone? You know, what is the accepted policy? And that brings up a lot of questions. So I think that if we're going to go that way, we might want to try it with just limited businesses, such as maybe gyms, so that we could get see how it goes between now and our next meeting. I am pleased that the numbers are slowly heading down, but that is another good argument for keeping the course, making sure that we don't have a flare up.
All right. I thought that's an interesting, because it has primarily been the gyms who have been, I think, requesting this. Is there any interest in doing a trial for the gyms, or I'm seeing a couple.
No, well, again, that's counterintuitive, because that's where you're breathing the hardest. That's where you're exhaling
Exactly.
with more force. So how, again, we have to control the air quality, the air movement as well. So that would be the industry that, and I get it. I understand. I get it, but gyms have been open and people have been exercising with masks on. We were given that little reprieve. I know, I'm in I have to go to physical therapy. I'm doing it with my mask on. It can be done. No, it's not pleasant. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes wearing a mask. Everybody wants to be free, but that wouldn't be the place I would start.
Well, so maybe shall we table this and see next month how we're doing with our numbers, and if it's something to consider then? That seemed like a reasonable.
Yeah, my concern is we're coming into, full-blown flu season. We're coming into the holidays. We're coming into the cold. We're coming into everybody going back indoors. I'm just very, very concerned. And I think, others, I do this for a living as well. I mean, I think we're all kind of staying the course until, after the new year. So
Okay.
just putting that out
I
there.
agree. And I'm a little bit disappointed too that businesses are not feeling comfortable enforcing beyond posting a sign on the door and allowing people to ignore that sign and freely walk through. I'm seeing that all over town, and as are my family members. And there are not dozens of people that have a medical exemption shopping at Market Basket. Maybe there are one or two, but I'm seeing young people, I'm seeing young couples, I'm seeing older people with their mask underneath their chin. I just think that it's not being respected.
Well, and can I speak about that too? One thing I cannot believe the anger out there. I know I think one of the biggest problems that we have right now is what I feel is misplaced anger. I know we all on this board have gotten a lot of people very angry with us, even with that last, before the last meeting, saying that why don't they call all of us and show up at our homes and things like that. That's not okay. And I think the problem is in public right now, people are afraid, stores, businesses are afraid to speak up because people are mean. I have never been so disillusioned in my life. Do I want to wear a mask? Nope. But you know what? Right now, it's the right thing to do. Even in the schools, I mean, I hear it all the time, right? And I can't even imagine the high school being at 80%. This is the thing people don't even realize is, we see numbers and there are so many people not vaccinated. It's actually mind blowing to me. And the reason I even start knowing about it is because I do contact tracing, and I will call and I have people that could be vaccinated and they're not. And then I have to give them quarantine information, isolation information. And I think Europe is doing a better job because they don't have the political problem we have right now. It seems to be on party lines, the way I look at it with the vaccination. And I don't think you're seeing that in other countries. So I think the biggest problem in enforcing this here is in our town is there's so much anger and hostility. And I think people are afraid to speak up because I know even for myself personally, it has taken its toll on me. It has really taken its toll on me, how mean and angry people are. And I just don't understand it.
Thanks, Sue. Okay. I think we'll leave that then at this point, and consider it again, perhaps in the future. Another thing that I thought was worth discussing is the 2 to 5 year olds. We put it as a blanket 2 and up, where I was under the apparently incorrect, though I'd heard it the other way, understanding that daycares were required at age 2 and up, but the guidance that Ray got us shows that it's strongly recommended, not required, and that there are some, obviously challenges and things. And so, like, reading through the guidance from the EEC, as well as reading Desi's piece on the 2 to 5s, I thought it was worth discussing whether we should consider 2 to 5 to follow the EEC and Desi guidance, or whether we wanted to keep that as a mandate for 2 to 5. Any thoughts?
I
Are
do
you
feel, I feel bad for that age group, I have to say. I think that is a hard thing to wear masks at that age. But I will say I have grandchildren that it's just normal. They're 3 and 5 and they wear them because it's just the parents have them wear their masks and that's what they do. So, I mean, I've seen the emails that have come into and some angry parents that we put that into play. I think it's interesting when it's saying strongly recommended. Sometimes I get frustrated with the strongly recommended because I feel as though somebody's afraid to just make the decision, and I think that's a shame because we are absolutely seeing spread with the little ones. I mean, it's how can you not, at a daycare situation, if they're in obviously close contact, they don't know about socially distancing, but
Okay, does anybody else have any thoughts? I mean, we do have in there, as medically appropriate.
So are you suggesting then that we would move the age to 5?
For required, it's just a thought, require it 5 and up and have 2, 3, and 4 as strongly recommended and following the EEC and Desi guidance.
So 2, 3, and 4, and then 5 and up.
that's Desi guidance too. That's what
Right,
she's
it's
talking
Desi
about.
and EEC,
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
I'm not against that.
That is one exemption I would be willing to put into play.
Yeah, I mean, like Sue, I get it that it's little and it's hard, but we all have had, we all know with little ones, like you said, Sue, it's you just make it, that's what you do, right? And they adjust and they adapt, and that's their normal. They don't know the difference, but
Yeah, just reading through the guidance, there were just, I would really want everybody to do it as much as possible, but I thought that there were some good pieces of things to be considered in following it that were in their guidances.
I guess I'm trying to think of how we would do it.
Right.
If there was, say, a cluster or an outbreak in a particular daycare, to then, say they'd have to mask, but.
Well, and if I could just add, we did have 2 significant, as Sue's aware, daycare outbreaks or clusters, if you will, last month, with regards to preschool and daycares.
In the 2, 3, and 4 age. So,
it's hard because we have parents that are saying, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you requiring masks on one side? And then, you have parents that are, concerned with children that are under 2 and over 2,
right.
which I get both sides.
2 and over. 2 and over.
Yeah, 2 to 4 is tough.
I think the hardest thing too, right? You just said that. We hear both sides. We have people very outspoken about we should get rid of the mask mandate. We have just as many people saying we absolutely need this mandate. So it's a very tricky thing for all of us, without a doubt, you know, and I think that's why I get a little overwhelmed with, you know, the just the anger out there, because I don't think any of us on this board has any will, you know, we don't want to hurt anybody. We want to do what's right for the whole town, not just groups in the town, but for everybody. And it does make it tricky. And Ray, what you were talking about with those daycare situations, what happened with a few of them is the little one brought it home and the vaccinated family members tested positive because it was brought home from the daycare. So again, that's what we're seeing is we're seeing breakthrough, and you know, that's what's happening. I know one of them I had at school, one of the children at my school, and then the parents and a grandmother. And so it's not as simple as we have a lot, everybody's vaccinated. It's there's a lot of breakthrough with it right now too. And the
Right.
little kids can't be vaccinated, so they are bringing it home.
So when I look at the EEC guidance, they have some exceptions, which is what sort of made me think about it. They say, you know, individuals while outdoors, that's fine. We're not requiring it outdoors, but they say children while eating, drinking, sleeping, or napping. And so we don't have that. And those are reasonable, I think, for that age group. Individuals who have difficulty breathing with the face covering, I mean, that I would think would be under our medically thing covered anyway, as would with severe cognitive or respiratory impairments.
The only one that we don't have would be sleeping.
Right,
We didn't address the napping part,
right. So,
but that, you know, that would make sense. I mean, I think that's kind of intuitive. The eating and the drinking and all of that, you know.
right. So I don't know if we just want to at least add that into ours to allow that, or.
I mean, I think that the napping and the sleeping does make sense if you want to add it in, because I mean, when kids are not, that they're not going to be socially interacting with each other at that point. So that's the main concern.
Okay. So is there somebody who'd like to make a motion to add to the children?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to add from, what is it, 2 to 5 year olds
2 to 4.
add 2 to 4 year olds to add during napping and sleeping that masks aren't required.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Michelle seconds. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Is that unanimous there? Was there anyone who said no? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, and then the third thing that I've been hearing and think is something to consider is that some people are requesting parameters. I think we originally chose not to put parameters into play because we felt that would allow us flexibility to hopefully end the mandate on the earlier side. But if people are asking for parameters because they just feel very uncomfortable without that, I thought it was something we should discuss. I had 3 different ways that I have seen or could see it being done. A lot of the towns were saying, and I don't think this will work for us, are saying following the state's or the county's risk level. Anytime you're in below substantial, you unmask. Anytime you're above substantial or above, you mask. We just don't have a way to communicate that. That's too, I think, difficult. We're having a hard enough time communicating to people that this week they are supposed to be masking now. So I don't see that one. I could see kind of following the previous green, yellow, red thing, saying that if we are 3 weeks in the moderate transmission, that we could consider, if we have 3 consecutive weeks out in moderate or lower, we could remove the mask mandate. That would be 11 new cases a week or fewer for the town of Westford, using the CDC calculations, which are new cases divided by town population. The town population per our town clerk is 23,714 times 100,000. And that puts us at 11 or fewer. So that would be one option. Another I could see doing would be saying whichever comes first, either the 3 weeks below substantial transmission, or say 10 weeks after the vaccine is approved for 5 to 12-year-olds, whichever comes first.
Well, you got to be careful about the approval of the vaccine, because it doesn't mean people are going to get it.
Well, it doesn't mean they're going to get it, but it means they have the option, and thereafter, I'd say then potentially the burden is on them. You know, for the people in town who have chosen to.
Is
I mean,
it
Stephanie, what I
premature?
like,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
Is it,
Michelle and then Zach.
is it premature to be even making this decision at this point? I think we maybe need to see how things go.
Okay, Zach?
I like that you your first thought of having some metric. I'm not sure what we'd agree upon, but some metric of, let's say, 3 weeks of moderate or something like that, that would give people an actual known, like, okay, you know, when we get to this, that's what we're all hoping to get to. I think that that is helpful as a community, because then it's like, is this going to go on forever? No, it's not. We're going to hopefully get to this point. When I look at the chart for Middlesex County, what I'm really afraid of, I'm glad to see it trending down in the past few weeks. But what I'm really afraid of is that if you look at last year, we hit November and it was just off to the races. And hopefully this is different this year. Hopefully with the vaccination rates and all sorts of things, that we're just going to keep trending down. That would be fantastic. But I am worried that a slow trending down rate doesn't mean that we won't see a spike as soon as the weather changes or some other factor changes, because we just don't know enough about it. So I think it would be great if we could agree on some metric like 3 weeks of moderate, so that people would feel like they understood what we're all trying to accomplish. And what we're all trying to accomplish, let's be honest, is it's not zero. We're not going to get to zero, but we're trying to get to a reasonable low transmission rate that we can all grasp, because otherwise we don't have any control over it. And so I liked the idea of 3 weeks of moderate, because that does show that things are getting under control. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, and I hear what you're saying, Michelle. It's like, is this too early to be talking about it? But that doesn't mean it's going to change tomorrow. It means that we have to actually start to see the numbers, you know, stabilize.
And I think that one of the things that I think is, rather than just going with Middlesex at 3 weeks of moderate, that we do Westford, because frankly, Westford is not even trending quite as well as Middlesex.
Yeah.
Our numbers are, depending on how I parse it, we fall into substantial, but one case more, which I rounded down, puts us in high transmission still.
Yeah. So I agree on the, you know, picking a metric kind of thing. I know I brought this up the last time about some kind of not open-endedness to it. But, you know, like I said, and Zach said, you know, I am concerned going into flu season, going into, you know, indoor cold season, what's going to happen. I would think, I don't want to get tied into something too narrow that we can't then say, okay, well, that was great. You know, people expecting us to do something, and then we have to either continue on or do something else. So I don't know whether it's better to say we're going to leave this in place until the end of the year. We're going to address it every week. If we see the metrics trending like we're seeing with 3 weeks, we can lift it at any time. You know, you don't want that back and forth thing like we went through with those colors. Right. Oh my God, you know, it was you yes, and then it was no, and it was 3 weeks, and it was bad, and then you were back. You know, that was horrible. So, I don't know. I'm just throwing all this out there. It's not necessarily I have an answer.
No, I
But,
think,
I
one
do
of the
like
things- yeah. Sorry, go
the
ahead.
3 week. I do like the 3 weeks, monitoring the 3 weeks, but, to Michelle's point, are we a little early on that? Is this, I'd hate to see the next 3 weeks be good. And then, after the holidays in December, we crash and burn for some reason, and then we have to start this all over again.
Sue?
So I do think that we in some ways owe it to people. We said we talk about it at every meeting, but I like the idea of metrics. I think what you said, Stephanie, I don't think we've had less than 11 a week since July.
Mhm.
So that's what people don't realize. Like I think it's interesting that you're telling me that we have to have below 11 a week to be considered moderate. If we could do that, we could do that for 3 weeks. That would be, to me, incredible.
We're
I
in the
don't see that
20s
happening.
or higher.
I mean, I see them. I see Maven. I see the numbers coming in. I mean, we had one day there were 6 cases, one day. So people talk all the time about show me the data. Well, a lot of it is actually confidential, so you can't share certain things. But as Ray also said, it's ever changing because cases close, then they open. I mean, I get texts and emails from the other nurses all the time with, got another positive case. We have another situation. So, hey, if we could, I would be all for a metric of if we had 3 weeks of moderate, I would absolutely be okay with lifting it because I don't see that happening. And if it did, I would be beyond thrilled because we would be going in the right direction.
So Sue, I think that kind of sums my thoughts is that frankly, I think that the vaccine for kids will come probably before we can get ourselves into the moderate range. And that I think also is a potential game changer because if they've had the opportunity to be vaccinated, then I think will A, influence our numbers and B, allow kids to stay in school, which is a big concern here. I wanted to ask you, since you have Maven access, because if we were to calculate that, right now the state reports a 2-week case count, not an every week case count. Are you able to pull a new case count weekly from Maven?
You could. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we could get that. Yeah, Joanne, you're saying, okay. Because if I divide the number in half from the state, that's not really giving us the picture because we might have a week with 15 and we might have a week with 9. And if you're just dividing, you might fall into the proper range. So I guess I would make a motion because I think that there are people who really are uncomfortable with this lack of a specific parameter.
Should we let people talk, before we?
Okay, we can let people talk and that's on the table.
If I can just
Sure,
jump
Joanne.
in, I agree. I just want to make sure that it is understood that, we could change it, it could come faster or it could be prolonged. Like
Right.
if we have to say, well, that we decided that, but it's not working and we're going to have to continue this, that is going to be an option for us without.
Right, so maybe we could
This-
phrase it so that the
had,
term-
like Sue has said, the meanness and the violent responses, we got some things that, some comments that were pretty scary. So we don't appreciate that. We don't need that. We're all trying our best, but we may have to pivot in the direction that people may not like. I'm hoping, Sue, I'm with you. I would be thrilled. So, but I'm also living this, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way.
Okay, so before we make any final motions or anything on that, let's go ahead and have some public comment. I'm going to state a few conditions for it. Let's see. We will be limiting our public comment given the number of people here to 20 minutes, starting short when we get there. I'm going to ask that each person take no longer than 2 minutes and be limited to one comment. Or asking there be no foul language, or and that people stick to the point and make their request quickly. And if somebody has already said what you were going to say, we've heard it and we don't need to hear it again. With that, I will read first the comments that we've had in the Q&A. From Kimberly Schwab, I have a concern that as a town, we have made an indoor mask mandate, even in establishments where children are not allowed, gyms, workout facilities, which has sent members to other towns and even New Hampshire to gyms, I'm assuming, where masks are not mandated. This directly impacts the businesses in our town and also defeats the purpose of the mask mandate, as those going elsewhere to exercise then return to our town. I also think there is a health risk to those who have to work out with a mask on. Is there any comment? Well, we'll just go ahead and read the questions. Suzanne Lewis says, how low do the case numbers have to go down before you will rescind the mask mandate? We were discussing that. Matt Edwards could say that we'll reassess as a committee with a meeting when we have 3 weeks. Yes, thank you, Matt. I was thinking that as well. That we could, if we have 3 weeks without, or in the moderate range, we could meet and assess whether that is the time to rescind the mask mandate. We'll now ask members of the public, again, please limit your comments to 2 minutes or less, and raise your hand if you would like to be heard. When you do speak, please state your name and your address for the record.
So Ray, I think that you have the power to unmute them. Because I can't. It's Melissa Mackey has her hand raised.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't see the hand. Okay.
It says that she is not available to speak due to an older version of Zoom. Choose promote to panelists. So Melissa, I believe you are on. It says she will be rejoining the webinar as a panelist. So
Hi,
Yep.
can you hear me?
yeah, there you go, Melissa.
Great, thank you so much. I can't see any of you, so I just want to let you know that. I want to first say thank you for taking my comments and for all your.
Sorry, Melissa, can you state your?
Oh, I'm
your
so sorry. Yeah,
email.
Melissa Mackey, 12 Fletcher Road.
Thank you.
I am really sorry to hear that you're getting so much angry people. I really am sorry. I respect each and every one of you, especially the work that you're doing, the years of service you've given to the community. I know that this is a really difficult time. A lot of people have a lot of feelings and emotions towards it. And, we're not going to be able to make everybody happy. And that's for sure. So I am a clinical lab scientist. I work for Lowell General Hospital. I have been working the entire pandemic. I was working back when we were closed down and we didn't know what was what, and so we are here at this point this fall with a working vaccine. And I think that's amazing. I think we are at a really good spot. So my job is all about data points, statistics, reference ranges, and, understanding what's abnormal and normal. And so I have always advocated for, this data-driven approach that you guys have been talking about tonight. And I think that's, really important, except data alone doesn't drive public policy because it's subject to this interpretation. And so that goes to what you were speaking about earlier about the case counts. I would not like to see a measurable goal that nobody actually thinks we can achieve be linked to that. That doesn't seem, reasonable for the community. I think the vaccine works and that we are undervaluing it a little bit. And, I wish that it got rid of all cases, but it doesn't. You can still get COVID, but it does work at severe illness and mortality. And so a really strong data point would be our hospitalization and mortality. And I think that's what our Department of Public Health looks at, which is why we don't have a state mask mandate right now. And I think it's important to remember that everyone interprets data in a different way. And so some people may have a little bit more comfort with the risk we're at right now, and others may not. And so we do have to kind of work together on that. I do advocate for the board to, create the achievable goal. I am more inclined to that vaccination marker as opposed to a case count that we're not ever really going to meet, especially if vaccinated people can still get COVID. I'm not sure why we're counting cases anyway. And so, yeah, I would just really, encourage the board to consider working on those achievable goals for the community before we start when we talk about removing the mandate, because mandates without endpoints, they are discouraging, they are frustrating, and they can be, for people who maybe are a little more comfortable with the risk we're at right now, it can be frustrating for them. And again, thank you for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. Okay. Do we have any other raised hands? I don't see them, so I don't know if they're showing up elsewhere.
We had a raised hand. Oh, we got one. Let's see. Mary?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Mary. Please go ahead. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mari Cartagenova, and I'm here with my husband also. And he also wants to make a statement. I'm at 16 Graniteville in Westford. And basically, we just wanted to say that there are a lot of people, as you know, that oppose the mask mandate. And I think it's important to definitely have an end goal with all of this, because I think it's super disincentivizing to just have it go on and on forever. And I do agree with the last person that just spoke that those cases, the case goal that you mentioned, we're probably never going to meet. And I think it's just important for the board to know, while we appreciate your service and everything that you're doing, there's a lot of people in town that don't agree with the mask mandate. And it's just important that everybody's opinion is respected in the town and not just everybody on the board. I realize you all voted, unanimously for the mask mandate, but there's a lot of people that you represent that don't agree with you. And I just think that's important that you know that. And, the town is highly vaccinated. And I think, like the previous speaker mentioned, it's important to look at those numbers more than just the cases, because this isn't something that anybody wants forever. And the piece about the children being masked, the 2 to 5 year olds, I mean, to me, that's insane. I mean, that's completely insane. How are you going to keep a mask on a little kid like that? I mean, I understand the transmission, et cetera. We're not talking about that. It's just to put a child in that position and tell them that it's normal, I think is psychologically damaging to them. And that's the type of damage that's never going to go away. And I think it's important that you recognize that that's something that you're doing to the kids of this town. I mean, I don't even have any kids in the school district. So it's not about my kids. But it's about the town's kids. And I just think that that's wrong. And it's not okay to do to the kids. And you need to know that there are other opinions out there, and that we will continue to speak up, because it's important that the mask mandate does not exist in Westford.
Thank you, Mari.
My name is Joseph Zahavi. I also live at 16 Graniteville. And I'm definitely coming from a point of concern when the Board of Health is essentially overreaching and mandating us to put masks when, it's a freedom of behavior that is something we still have. And I was a little concerned about hearing the board start discussing the situation in Europe, where you have to show papers and you have to demonstrate your vaccine card to gain entry into establishments. And I was just hearing shadows of that for entering, a market basket and so forth. And that concerns me. It's just an example of an overreach, I believe, of you and your good people trying to solve a health crisis. But in reality, it doesn't help in that respect. Like we said, there's a high percentage of vaccination, and it's not clear to me that there's a cause and effect of wearing masks to affect the transmission rate and so forth with the vaccines. But again, let me just point out that from a freedom perspective and from a historical, perception of what has happened in Europe in the past and what, societies have done, I'm concerned about an overreaching disrespect for people's ability to guide their own life in terms of what they do and what they don't do. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think I'll say that, I think when I was bringing up what I observed and experienced while I was in Europe wasn't necessarily to say that that's what we should move to. I'm just saying that it was, I have had businesses in town ask, if we ask everybody to show and demonstrate their vaccination, can we remove masks? And I was saying that I was experiencing that in another location. So not necessarily advocating that same approach. But we're also seeing that, like Zach mentioned, there are businesses down in Boston that are requiring, proof of vaccination or a negative test result, in addition sometimes to mask wearing. So there's this is a new territory in some respects, and in other respects, this is a public health crisis, and we have seen similar requirements for public health crises in the past. Okay, do we have any other comments?
We do not have any other raised hands at this time, and we just have the 3 questions.
Okay, which I think I read already.
Yep. Yep.
All right, then seeing no other comments.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure, Sue.
Yeah. First of all, I find it offensive that anybody says that we're doing anything to children. I'm not doing anything to children that is harmful. I work as a school nurse, and I work really hard to not do anything that is harmful to children. So I take a little offense to that. And I do think this idea we shouldn't have to count cases anymore. I wish we didn't have to. I really, really do. But unfortunately, it's still the way of the state and what we're asked to do. And I think working in the school system makes it really tricky, because we keep hearing over and over again that kids are not getting that sick with it, and they're not being hospitalized, but children are missing 3 weeks of school sometimes because the COVID gets into the home and they have to quarantine, then somebody else tests positive. And I've had children out of school for up to 3 weeks, and that does take a toll on them. So there are so many different sides to this. And I am sorry if people think we're overreaching. I don't believe that we are. I think we're doing our best to make this town as safe as possible. And we are never going to get to a point that everybody agrees with us, just like we will never be able to get everybody vaccinated. And Melissa, I have to tell you, I have never undermined vaccination. I talk it all the time. The most important thing that everybody can do is to get vaccinated who is eligible. But unfortunately, not everybody agrees with that.
Thanks, Sue. Okay, so I think at this point, maybe we just want to return to whether we would like to set any sort of milestone. And I don't think that we were saying it's impossible to get below 11 cases. I don't think that's an impossibility. I just think it's a ways out. I'm not trying to set an impossible mile marker.
Well, and neither am I. I think people don't understand what's going on out there. What would people keep
Right.
saying is people are vaccinated. We've done a good job in this town, and they're not aware of how many cases we actually still have. So the fact that we're still in the substantial range and have been that way since July, that's what people have lost sight of. Back in June and July, we were breathing a huge sigh of relief. We absolutely were. And if the Delta variant hadn't come into play, I don't think we'd be having this discussion. I don't. But it did, and things started escalating again in August. And we all know that that's when the numbers changed. And if you go back to any of the news stories, that's when the numbers changed, and that's when they started saying we should be mandating masks again in public settings. So it's not that we're doing this we just pulled things out of the air, trying to ruin people's lives. We are trying to actually, keep people as safe as possible. And, I know some people don't agree with it, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are going in and out of stores who are not vaccinated that are not wearing their masks. And the one way that we know that people can all be safe, whether they're vaccinated or not, is require them right now to wear masks.
Yeah. And, for people who don't, I have been participating in the state calls once or twice a week for the last year and a half with the DPH. I take it seriously as chair of the board. And so I participate in those. I hear what the Department of Public Health is encouraging and saying and thinking about COVID. I hear what the Department of Department of DESE, education, elementary and secondary education
Got it.
is saying, and so do several of our other board members. This is not something that we are doing to flex any muscles. We, I think along with everyone, wearing a mask is not our favorite thing. However, keeping our community healthy and safe, creating an environment where children are able to be in school when they don't have an option in particular for any outside of school learning, this is an important thing. And so we are looking at all the different things, and there are social and emotional, there are physical health, there are a lot of things to consider, and we are doing our best to consider all of that. And
So-
that's what, Joanne, go ahead.
I just want to make a comment too, regarding, the virus itself. Again, we took our masks off. We thought we were good over the summer, and the Delta variant kind of raised its ugly head. That's how viruses work. That's how viruses survive, is they mutate in order to survive. There's other variants that are being watched. There are some that aren't as virulent, meaning they're not going to make you as sick, even if they are more contagious. And that's where, we have to stay on top of this. This is why we are where we are, is because of the Delta variant. There could be another one. They are watching others,
Variants of concern.
And, if we let our guard down, they will take hold, which is exactly what has happened. And viruses are nasty little bugs, and that's how they survive in the world. So that's why we have vaccines. That's why, this time of year we preach as we've been doing forever with flu, wash your hands, cover your cough, social distancing, don't come to work sick. These aren't new. None of this is new. They're all layers. They're all things that we have to do in conjunction with each other to make it work. I mean, how many years have we, I've seen it going into the hospitals and the doctor's offices during flu season with the big signs. If you're not, if you're coughing, if you're not feeling, put on a mask. That's not new. Just nobody did it. And what happens? We would have flu outbreaks. So, none of this is new. Nobody wants to wear a mask, but this is what we're going to have to do. And we're going to have to do it a little bit longer until we get a much better handle on what's happening.
Thank you, Joanne. Ray.
I just wanted to mention, I don't know if the public is aware, when we post active COVID cases once a week here in Westford for over the last year and a half, 2 years since this has started, those are active cases for today. So on Sunday, there could have been 76 cases. Monday, there's 40 cases, as I said earlier, constantly opening and closing. The cases that are reported, those active cases, come out of what's called MAVEN, and that is a state surveillance system where these cases are reported directly to the health department. I just want to mention that because there are cases that, for instance, come in the middle of the night or at night on the weekends, even during the day, as Sue mentioned earlier, 6, 7 cases at a time, clusters. That we need to make calls to each and every individual that is positive and their close contacts. People today are taking home kits. They don't report them to the state. Parents are reporting to the school systems. There are delays before cases get into the MAVEN or the state surveillance system. So I just want to mention that. I think people get this sense of this false sense of security that it's only, today it's only 30. And so that isn't something that's always disclosed, if you will, to the public. So I just wanted to mention that. The second thing is, I don't think the public's aware too, when a child is positive in school, we isolate and we quarantine. They're two different things. And so when there's a positive case, the child has to be isolated for a certain amount of days. And on day 11, the sibling starts their quarantine. So one child can be out up to two to 2.5 weeks out of school, depending on the situation. So hence the reason we want to keep all kids in school.
Just to clarify, Ray, so if one child in a family has COVID, their
Mhm.
sibling will now be out of school, but their 14-day clock does not begin until that other sibling hits day 11.
Okay, so
So
the
that
first
means
child
that-
has to finish before the second child can even
But
start.
the second child has to be out the entire time the first child is out. And
Correct.
that is a really significant period of time.
That's all. I just wanted to mention those two things because I don't think
Yeah.
that's always disclosed. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Okay, so in terms of setting any sort of parameter for reconsidering, just so that people have an idea, do we need to just say that we will reassess as a committee or as a board when we have had 3 weeks of consecutive weeks of moderate transmission within the town?
Well, Stephanie, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Zach?
I'd like to make a motion that Westford, when the new weekly case count of COVID is moderate for a period of 3 weeks, so moderate or lower for a period of 3 weeks, that the board would then reassess our mask mandate. And the reason for this is, first of all, I think it is an attainable goal. I think that if we do see this trend continue and even accelerate downward, that we could be at that very soon. If
We've
it
been there
doesn't,
before.
exactly, we've been there before. So I mean, I'm not saying this like ha ha ha, it'll never happen. I hope it does happen, and I hope it does happen soon. But also, I think that it gives the public the understanding of what we're looking for and what the whole town should be looking for, which means that we're all hopefully working together on this, so that when you go into an establishment and someone's not wearing their mask, you might be more prone to tell management or to tell that person, hey, remember, wear your mask. We're all working together here to get that count as low as possible so we can all go back to normal. I think that if we don't have something like this in place, it is easy for the public to think, oh, well, they just want like a perfect world where there's no cases. Like, I don't know what the board's thinking. And so I think this would be a good goal to have. Now, I agree with what other members have said, like this shouldn't be etched in stone. It shouldn't be like it immediately means that the masks come off, because there might be other circumstances. But I think that it is a good guideline for us, and it should kind of signal to the public that that is what we're looking for. Because if we got to those numbers, that would look a lot like it did earlier in the summer when numbers were going down, things were getting a whole lot, safer. So that's my motion, that basically Westford, when we see the Westford new weekly case count at moderate or lower for a period of 3 weeks, the Board of Health will reassess the mask mandate in Westford.
Thank you. Is there any comment?
I will-
I would just like to comment that, we hear so much about personal freedoms, and we're in a pandemic, and I think this has got to be a team effort. This is public health, this is community health, this is not individual health. And I think wearing the mask is going to drive us toward the goal that we all want to achieve. And we just shouldn't be saying it's individual freedom.
Thanks, Michelle. Any other comments? Joanne?
Yeah, I agree. And I like the way that's worded, and especially what you both said so far, Michelle and Zach, that we are in this together. And it may help with some of that self-enforcing. I was horrified this weekend at a particular place that I was at, and it was just people coming in and out with no enforcement, no sign, no anything. That's not helpful. That's not going to get us to where we're going to be. So I think that's great. I think, again, signage is really important for people that are coming into our community that may not know we need to be masked, and, a letter on the door isn't going to do it. We need to, go back to some graphics, a simple, face with a mask required, something that, is bright and cheerful and as you can be, but I mean, eye-catching. But yeah, I mean, why can't we look at this with the lens of we're all in this together, and we're gonna overcome, and we're gonna do this, and let's all band together. I think that's a great way to put it, Zach. I'm glad you phrased it that way. So yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Okay, any other comments?
There is a,
There was a
sorry.
raised hand from Melissa Mackey.
What about, was Sue gonna say something?
No, I was going to second the motion, actually. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, we're in, I don't, yeah. So Sue's going, is there, Sue would like to second the motion? Okay, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that was, motion passes unanimously, I believe. Okay, seeing no one saying no. Great, so that we will reassess when we have seen 3 weeks of moderate transmission consecutively, and we're all in this together, and hopefully we can see that happen soon.
And reassess means just that. We will relook at it. Doesn't mean we'll rescind. It's reassess.
And
So
it doesn't mean that in the interim, we won't continue to discuss it. And, if we need to make changes to the mandate, make changes to the mandate. We are constantly thinking and looking at this.
I'm gonna have to get my,
Your battery dying.
I know it is.
Okay,
I know.
well, I think that
can
we're,
excuse myself. I got a few minutes. I just
So,
saw
Stephanie,
the gym.
yeah, Sue?
real quick, what about that 2 to 5 year? Did we do anything with that?
We added that they.
We did? Okay,
For naps and,
okay,
yeah, we
Okay.
put that on our thing.
okay.
And I would just say that, if there are businesses like preschools and things where they're having problems or they feel like there's something else, please reach out to us so that, if there's, but we have a medical, please consider the medical needs as well as, now when they're sleeping, as obviously eating.
Okay.
Are times when masks don't need to be worn. And I guess with that, I think we have then covered everything on the agenda.
Correct. If I could just ask one question.
Sure.
I will definitely make changes with the sleeping and napping requirements. Changes. Did you want the last vote to be added to the mandate? Or would you just like that to keep that a separate addendum?
I don't think that needs to be in the, well, that should be, I don't know, because that could change. You don't want to be changing.
No, I agree. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, the mandate, well, this is my opinion. Mandate is more about
What you have to do.
what you have to do as opposed to what we're gonna look at.
Okay.
I don't know how others feel.
No, I think that's
I
reasonable.
agree. Yeah.
But maybe we can let the town know on our Facebook page that this is what we're, working towards together
Absolutely.
as a
No
goal,
problem.
a time to reassess. Thank you, Ray.
Thanks. Yep, thank you.
With that, then, do we have and I don't mean to not recognize Melissa, but we've moved off of public comment at this point, so I don't know if there's
And she had already spoken too, so.
right. So, okay. So at this point, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
John makes the motion. I don't think there's any comments. Is there a second?
Second, I beat you.
Joanne seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Thank you, everyone. And Zach,
Night, everyone.
hopefully we can look at some resumes soon.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.